Um, how y'all doing? This is just going to be a rough video because I literally do not have the time to try and learn how to edit a whole bunch of stuff in. So I'm not gonna. I'm simply going to explain how the universe works, how it came into being, and what structure it is now. Before everybody starts thinking the only way to do it is with a quantum computer. Just to be clear, the human brain, or at least if you are able to perceive in 4 to 5 dimensions, has quadrillions of times more processing capacity than that little quantum computing box that Google just created. So here we go. I'm going to flip the thing and I'm going to show you very, very simply how the universe came into being. I'm going to show you this. This right here is a representation of universal structure. Okay, the structure of the universe is simply filaments, right? From the biggest size right down to the smallest size that the energy moved into. Okay, so this is how energy moved into universal space. So within a short time, you had the energy building into a ball. So this is, I don't know, maybe 1 trillion years. The proto ball is probably the size of a basketball before it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it moved to one dimension. This is where the energy started feeding back in on the source that was still feeding the universe. This is when every single part of the universe existed on one single layer. The one layer of the universe, all the calculations of existence all meshed together. It would have looked like putty or resin or something. It would have been very unusual. But then it grew more complex and it grew more layers. This is where it became two-dimension. This is where it had a top, a bottom, and a middle. It had the top layer, right? Our layer, like which sort of blue. And then it had the bottom layer, which is like the reflective energy layer, which balances all the matter. And then it had the transition point in the center. All right, this is what did I, this is probably, I wrote 2 trillion, but this is probably more like 4 trillion years. Then we move to this as it grows more complex again. This is universal energy universal energy sedimenting into its layers and growing more complex. This is 3 dimensions. This is when conscious life in universal space became possible. Now, all the reactions, all the consciousness, all the sub-reflective universal energies which make up multiple facets of reactive elements today were all in single parts. There were far less elements at this time, far less complexity, and not a layer to store universal intelligence, consciousness, us. This is where it grew. This is probably like freaking, trillions, man. Maybe tens of trillions of years, maybe less. I haven't quite calculated it yet. But we are 4 dimensions. This is at least 10 trillion years. Honestly, I've written this, but no, it's way more. Way, way more. This is when the universe became 4-dimensional and the first layers of consciousness, energy value, time, this here is when time came into play, because before everything existed together and just sort of flowed around between one and the other. There wasn't a beginning and an end. This is when the recycling broke down into separate functioning parts of this overall space. Yet in the center here, the energy is still feeding the expanded universe. Now, I didn't try to render it all because I simply could not be bothered, but this is the universe we exist in now. It is an absolute, almost perfect balance of energies, and we could be anywhere from 2 trillion to 20 trillion years at this point, because the little proto-ball of energy right there in the center of our universe is still feeding it. It's still feeding it energy. It's still like giving it. Now, why am I able to tell you this? Why am I? There is nothing special about me. I need to emphasize this. I am a completely random human being. I have no gifts. I have no powers. Oh my dear God. Seriously, I am a very standard representation of a human being with one key difference. I am able to perceive not only what you see with your eyes and are able to detect with everything else. When my eyes shut, 90% of the universe, or the rest of the available values that make up the universe, suddenly become visible to me within my mind. I'm able to perceive in 4 dimensions. This doesn't make me special because every single human can do this. Why I suddenly can is through a strange set of choices and because I desperately wanted to understand things. But I gave up much of what you would consider humanity to be able to achieve a newer level of consciousness. But I watched a video on the quantum computing and processing power of this tiny thing, and they asked it a question, and the quantum computer told them that there is another dimension that it's interacting with, but only because of the limited programming within the quantum computer. The quantum computer, or the information you are taking from it to calculate information, is less than 1% of what is actually happening within your quantum computing system. Those subatomic particles you throw and have indeterminate amounts come back is because you're literally seeing one half of a mirror and there's a whole other thing going on completely imperceptible. All the quantum computer is doing is putting subatomic particles through the universal lattice to interact with other subatomic particles in the relay, the reactive energy layer of the universe, and they're coming back. That's what's happening. It's not another dimension that it's interacting with. It is simply a layer, a calculative existence layer of the overall existence medium of our universe. The tan layer, what you see on the top, the tangible layer, the layer of light, distance, sound, and everything else, is a projection of all those layers I showed you. Each of them is a set of values, right, that make up to a sum and calculate into an image, into a perceivable space for intelligence to perceive. So please, for the love of God, ask yourself some questions. Look around at the structure of the universe in all the elements and things around you before thinking you need a quantum computer, because guaranteed, if you feed my models into a quantum computer, it'll feed you back out the rest of the answers, no doubt. So please, you can understand the universe with your own brain, because you, every human being who watches this, is a quantum computer. Yeah.